All right, hello YouTube, hello Instagram, hello Facebook, hello podcast, and it's great to be back. I'm just going to let everyone know on Instagram what we're actually doing here, but it's a really exciting thing to be able to come back and go live again. I've had the last couple of days have been basically getting myself back into my home. I was up in Scotland for over a week. And yeah, it's nice to be back. I'm just posting here. So thanks everyone for all of the love and attention I have. Yes, we were burgled or broken into in our home. And would you believe it? Everything is actually still here. It's one of those burglaries where we had someone break in. It was clearly an opportunist, and they went for cash and clearly gold. All of our jewelry and things like that were laid out, and only the gold had been taken, which sadly in these days means mostly things that gold are the older sentimental things. We lost a load of heirlooms and whatnot, so that's a bit of a shame. But you know, we weren't in the house and everything else was left, and so it could be a lot worse. So yesterday was dealt with police. And all is to say, whilst that was all done, it was an interesting opportunity to start looking at contingency planning. And I think it'd be interesting today to share my philosophy on contingency work and how I do it. And some of you wonderful people have sent through questions as well, asking specifically about that. So if you have any questions you want to ask about contingency planning in your business, then that'd be brilliant. Hello to Abhijit Joshi specifically. He is going to be going live today in the Entrepreneur Business Group on Facebook. So if you are able to join into there later today, you'll see him go live. And for 10, I think it's now 12 days, we're going to have a different member each day going live and sharing something. So good luck with that, Abhijit. So if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, let me know. Yes, Daniel, pawn shops have been mentioned to police, and also with my wife, I think, is going out to do that too. But yeah, we've decided to focus today on contingency planning. Plan B, Plan C, is it needed? Should you do it? Should you not? Any questions about that, let me know. But shout out firstly to Instagram. Hello, everyone jumping in there. Give me a heart. Hello to everyone on Facebook as well. Let me know where you're watching from. And hello, everyone on YouTube as well. I want to start with a notice. In a week and a half, so about 10 days, on Wednesday, the 12th of September, we will, of course, be having the next Entrepreneur Business Live event in London. So we've got some amazing speakers. Toph Evans is a resilience coach. We've got Rebecca Godfrey, who's come from a big pharma background and now works with leadership, and Kevin Lee, who was head of design for eBay, then for Samsung, something else as well. I can't remember which one it was now. PayPal, in fact. So eBay, Samsung, and PayPal, and now for Visa. So he's a great guy talking about the customer journey, as I will be too. If you are able to join us on the 12th, you need to go to my website, therichardmoore.com, and book your ticket. So we'll be in London on the 12th in the evening from 6 o'clock. And if you're not in the area, then do watch live. We'll stream all 4 presentations from the Facebook group again, so the Entrepreneur Business Group. So I hope everyone can join us there. Let's get into the questions. The first one is from Michael Getty. He said, Richard, I think I'd like to hear more about contingencies. I'm running into situations where time I would normally spend working is being used to deal with issues. Under other circumstances, I would hire someone to help fill the gap, but I don't have that kind of income yet. It's interesting that you've separated here work with dealing with issues. And my view genuinely is that they are one and the same. And I suppose what I'm saying here is, you know, issues are the game. That is it, Michael. You know, running a business is handling all these issues. And, you know, coming back from 10 days away, 2 days of traveling, the last 2 days, because I've got children as well. We didn't do the 10 hours all at once. You know, there's a lot of time to reflect on what things are needed. And, you know, it's hard because you get back thinking all the wonderful things you want to go do, but then there's also all the things you know need sorting out as well. And so issues are part of the world. And what I would say is think about your time, think about when you want to do it. So remember the CEL approach. So if you haven't heard of this, it's something I've been doing for some time now. The idea of you focusing on customers and cash flow related issues first, then essential, hair is on fire, everything's going to go wrong unless I fix this kind of issues, comes second, and then things related to your work or line of work come third. And what it means is what you actually do is you learn to overcome the kind of panicky stress that comes with your instinct taking charge about things that are potentially worrying issues. What I suppose I'm saying here is, if you've got things that you are worrying or anxious about, you tend, because of that bias, you tend to focus on trying to fix them. It's actually better to say to yourself from a business perspective, probably most issues will keep. Let's focus on cash flow and new customers and issues that they have first, so that the business rate is maintained as it should be. And then, excuse me, then you focus in, of course, more on actual issues and problems and things like that. What that does is it conditions you to react in a cool, calm state. When you've got these issues and anxieties coming in about your business, you put them to one side and say, do I need to actually deal with them now, or is it some kind of bias? A perfect example of this is, it's happened a few months ago. I remember it because it really stood out. I remember posting about it. I was working on a project and the CEO from another client sent me an email. So I have this notification pop up at the bottom of my screen. And I remember very well being mindful of the reaction in my head going, oh, CEO of client. And before I'd done much, my head was going, you need to jump in, Richard, and check that out. You need to, because it's someone there who has a question and he's an important person. He pays you money. And I'm like, imagine if you're in a meeting or something. Imagine if you didn't see that notification because you were making a cup of tea, right? It wouldn't be dealt with immediately. And as a result, you need to say to yourself, right, do I need to jump on this right now? The answer typically is no. So issues, I'm conditioning myself. I'm not saying amazing, but I've learned over time to condition myself to say, do I need to deal with this right now? Because usually the answer is no. Push it over, deal with what I'm doing, stay focused. It's called being task orientated. Focus on the task of completing that project, and then I went and deal with the issues. And it's the same with your mobile. You know, it's the same with when you get the notification sound. You look out for it next time when your phone goes off. Something in your brain will go, ooh, it's like that Pavlovian response. Like when you ring a bell, when you feed a dog, after a while, if you ring a bell, it will think it's going to get fed. You need to start learning to be in control again rather than being controlled. And I think that's a good way of looking at issues. There's often this panic or anxiety around an issue. It's playing on our mind. Sure, it will get done, but in good time, in time when I'm scheduled to do it. So maybe those issues kick off at, I don't know, 11 o'clock in the morning, and up until then, I'm dealing with other things instead. So unless it's really like my house will burn to the ground, otherwise, it can keep until the time when it comes around that you're actually going to do that. Same as for anything. Emails. Don't just handle emails as they come in. Handle emails at one chunk during the day. It's called batching. You do a load of tasks on one thing, then you move on to something else. And I think what I would suggest, Michael, is you focus on time spent working. So the customer and cash flow related tasks, and then you set aside time for issues. And you have triage, right? Just like with our house when it was broken into in the past week. The police didn't run around straight away because they're a bigger fish to fry. It was a non-emergency that there was a break-in in a house compared with someone who'd maybe been in a fight or something like that. So it's an important way to look at it. Let's look at some of the comments coming through on Facebook here. Eileen Kelly, hello, Richard. How much money do you think I should set aside if I was planning to run a business networking event? My networking events, so the ones I'm running in London, I'm doing it in collaboration with WeWork. WeWork membership is, because it's a US business, is $45 a month, Eileen. And for $45 a month, you're allowed to put on events for free. So you show up, they set out the seats, they deal with the AV. So I literally plug in my laptop and I've got a projector, I've got mics, I've got music if I need as well. Everything's done for me. Using Eventbrite is completely free as well, because of course that's a way of presenting your event and getting tickets and things like that, and the money can go straight to straight to your bank account or PayPal or something like that. So it's really straightforward to do. Money you think you should set aside, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, if that networking event is going to be hiring a space, then you need to spend money on that. WeWork provide free beer, and because it's in the evening after work, most people have had a bit of food anyway, so I don't bother about providing food. If you're doing an all-day event, you need to provide catering, but really there's not much more to it than that. I don't think you need too much money at all. I think that it's very tempting to buy banners and posters and things like that, but most people don't care about that kind of thing. Most people, if they're going for a networking event, they just want to go network. And the WeWork space I'm using next Wednesday is very like chilled hipster kind of space, exposed brick walls. It's near, it's by the city in London, and it's certainly not this polished conference room. And in fact, I quite like it because it's not like that. And if anything, you should be looking to get in money, and which is what I was starting to roll out in the coming months, Eileen, which is from sponsorship of an event. Because of course, if you have the attention of certain set or demographic of people, then that's something you can sell to a sponsor. And of course, you should get income if you choose to from ticket sales as well. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, thanks so much for the other comment in there, Daniel. So let's look at the next question. Hopefully, Michael, that helped. The CEO approach is really important. Next one is from Daniel Nunez. So thanks so much. You were asking, you were commenting here on Facebook anyway. Can you go further into detail on what type of contingency strategies you have in place for circumstances like this? I always start with a singular point of what do my clients need from me. Contingency, if you think about it from a business perspective, is all about ensuring that that you're covered if something goes wrong. And what that really means is your business continues to move and ideally thrive if there's a problem. That problem might be operational. It might also be that you get ill, or as I had recently, 7 weeks ago, I was having an operation, for example. So it all boils down to, can we still serve the customer? So whenever I'm building something new or deciding on doing something, I ask myself, what if I can't do it? What if I can't get to it? What if something goes wrong there? For instance, on Mondays, every Monday, it will go out today, there is a newsletter, the Richard Moore newsletter, called the Entrepreneur Business Bulletin. You can sign up for it on my website, so therichardmoore.com. It's completely free. I hope you have. The third one is going out today, for example. There is an amazing business partner I work with, a lady called Mona Nairi, and she is the person who coordinates and runs that newsletter with me. So she gathers all the information, she builds it, she sends it out, and that box is ticked as far as I'm concerned. If she and I don't get in touch because something goes wrong or something like that, I know how to deal with it as well. And worst case, there's someone else I know who has access to that, to MailChimp, and can also provide that too. So there'll always be contingency. There's like a plan B and C in place there. If I look at something like the Startup Business Q&A, there was no hope in hell the last 2 Mondays of me going live. But I still ran a startup business, video at 1 p.m. On Monday the past 2 weeks, purely because even though I couldn't get to do a live stream because I was in the Highlands of Scotland with no reception, there was a video pre-recorded that had been uploaded, so it was already there. So I'm always thinking, and the Q&A is the same as delivering a service or a product to a client. It's what would need to happen for the client to still get their service. Okay, so always thinking that way. So I'm just checking the question as well. What further contingency strategies you have for circumstances like this? I think you might mean like circumstances like when I had the break-in. Everything is based online. So I don't save stuff on the hard drive, I save it online, and that's all encrypted and stuff like that. I have ways in which I can access the information. So I took with me on holiday my laptop, from which I can do everything. My laptop and all devices are also able to access remotely this particular office as well, this office can also access other offices. So often I'm accessing this remotely to then remotely access another office. It's quite intense at times. But what I also have is a phone, and it's really irritating. But if I had to, the laptop went down, and at one point this computer went down as well. On Wednesday, I can still do everything from my phone. I also took a backup phone as well, which is how I'm able to stream to Instagram over here and on Facebook. Yeah, I could use a camera, but what's the point? The phone's just as good. And I think it's interesting because if you have all of that contingency in place, worst case scenario, which happened about a month ago, my newer phone here broke. I had a backup one ready to go. So there's no loss of service. It's always saying to yourself, do I have the ability to still deliver to customers? That's the most important thing. Okay. So I think that's important to look at. I've had a question here from Eileen again. I would love if you could teach how to get sponsorship. Thanks, you're so good. You're welcome. So sponsorship for events is very straightforward. You need to understand, like with anything when you're selling, you need to understand what a sponsor would want. A sponsor only wants one thing. That is access to the attention you're creating around these people. So if I have a load of very important people, entrepreneurs, for example, all attending an event, okay, then a sponsor, an ideal sponsor, is someone who would want to target those people. Okay, so if I can prove to the sponsor that I have those eyeballs, then that's what matters. It may well be that they're trying to target entrepreneurs. It may well be they're trying to target something completely different. It could be that someone's targeting adults, and you still have adults in that place. The nice thing about, for example, the Entrepreneur Business Live events is I'm also marketing them, which means on places like LinkedIn, thousands and thousands and thousands of people get to view all of my content there. And so any sponsors get the benefit of seeing attention there too. So an example of this is kind of like sponsorship is on LinkedIn. With all of my videos, I have a business partnership with a subtitle company called Subtitle. So the word subtitle with a Z in the States. So every video I make, I shout out Subtitle, and I use the Subtitle program in return for the things that I get from them. And it's really simple. The sell to them is the same as you sell at a sponsorship of an event, which is, look, tens of I think it was something like almost 250,000 people in a month had viewed my videos. So I presented that and said, look at all the people who view my videos. Look at the fact I'm engaged with all these content generators who would use your Subtitle software. Can you therefore see the value in working with me? The answer obviously is yes. When you're selling attention of the right people to sponsors, you can't lose. And likewise, that's how you sell tickets for events as well. You sell the attention that they would, or rather you sell the information they would get. So to someone attending an event, you're selling them amazing speakers and networking with each other. If I have people who are like-minded doing similar lines of work, they're going to want to probably meet with each other. If I have great speakers that resonate in their space like I do each month on my events, then people will want to attend. So the job one is get great speakers. Job two is tell the world about it so that the right people come and see the speakers. Job three is go get sponsors because you've got these people in attendance at your event. So hopefully that helps. I hope that helps a lot. Zach Husson has written here, a tip to help with contingency: set up a process or document, a step-by-step guide that can be used by anyone to do a task. This can be shared by people you trust. If you're unable to do it yourself. Quite right. In fact, when I had an operation last year, which was a major operation, I wrote out on a piece of paper access to different things, including, for example, if anything terrible happened to me, my wife could follow step by step how to sell all of my investments and liquidize all my assets, all my shares and things like that, because it's important that people can take over. So there's I've got a filing cabinet, loads of information all in there as well. So it's important to look at it from the perspective of someone who's taking over your business. If you no longer can that person take over? Are you the only one with access to passwords and things, or is there someone you trust who maybe could have access to something like that as well? Okay, so yeah, I hope that helps. I'm just going back here. Hello everyone on Facebook, there's so many of you here. Thank you all of the love on Instagram as well. Patience and Hustle, Lock and Keys, Take It Easy, My Travel Story, Ash, Marcus Hamby, Andrea Benton, Doing Good God's Work, Benno Mustasi, Nicolo, Tahid, Mikey, Waligo, Wika, Hope. There's so many of you. Thanks everyone as well on Facebook for jumping in. Let's do a couple more questions on this, because I think contingency planning is a strong subject. Anna Cericcio, and there's an example of Contingency. She is helping with building the Entrepreneur Business Live events. I can jump in if I need to. She was on holiday recently, as was I, but we're jumping each other's shoes to help out. She's asked, this is a great one. How would you build plan B and C into your strategy? What's the failure criteria to activate them? I think that's personally, I think it's a bit of overthinking. You can plan and plan and plan and plan. What I do more is think, when I'm building something or planning something, I ask myself, what about when this bit fails? And you know what? That also isn't just for operational things. It's also for sales pipeline. People, when they get a really good piece of business stuck in their pipeline that's looking like it's going to be a wonderful deal, and they're all going to be making big commissions this month, forget in the excitement often to ask themselves the question, and what about when this fails? What about if this doesn't work out? And what that isn't doing is it isn't saying to yourself, well, it probably won't work out, or oh no, I hope it doesn't, I hope it works out, and things like that. No, it's a practical focus. It's, if this doesn't happen, what have I got next? So whenever I was managing sales teams, I would always say, when they're like, oh, I've got this thing, great. What else have you got out there? What about if it falls? You need £10,000 of business this week. You've got £10,000 of pipeline. What about when 2 of those things don't happen? What else have you got? Okay, because you need to have backup. It's important. And I think always asking yourself that, what do I do if this element doesn't work? So as I've given you some examples already there, what do I do if the newsletter can't be sent out? I can do it. What do I do if the Q&A can't happen? I can do it. And look, worst case scenario, the very worst case scenario is actually nothing happens. You know, the newsletter doesn't go out, and then I send it the next day and say, look, there's this thing that happened, or I don't do the Q&A, you know, but probably I'll be able to. Worst case, it goes out later. There's been some Q&As that started a little bit later than 1 p.m. on a Monday, many moons ago, I remember. And, you know, sometimes you just got to say to yourself, actually, if there's nothing I can do, it's not going to probably be the end of the world. But as long as you're communicative with your clients, they'll be expecting a certain level of service as well. But I do think asking yourself, what happens if that bit doesn't work out, or if that doesn't happen? I'm always thinking to myself, you know, what happens if this computer goes down? Am I screwed? No, because it's not all on a hard drive. It's saved online. I pull out the phone straight away and I can carry on. Or I've got a laptop, or I've got another spare computer in another office I can use. So there's all these things in place. I think that we can over plan and then we don't actually end up doing anything. It depends on the sensitivity of the project you're working on. Sometimes you need to have loads of contingency because it's very, very dangerous, such as if you're running a bank. But at the same time, you know, I think each element of your business should have if this thing fails, you know, what picks up the slack. And ideally, you want things that can move quickly. You need to make sure other people are aware of this too, because if you're the person who's making all the parts move and then something happens to you, everything grinds to a halt and no one has a clue how to access it. So you need to make sure it's not the whole world revolving around you. And that's why I have people helping out in different elements from the team in different parts of the business. Another one from Anna, actually, practical tips on how to stay focused on a daily basis, like right now with the break-in. How do you motivate yourself? Well, what can you do? Someone's broken in, police have been, and I've checked everything over. We know what to do, and we're now going to move on to the next thing. That's the way to look at it. So I'm just going to make sure I'm having. You might be able to hear my daughter screaming up the stairs. Actually, wants me to probably play with more birthday presents. Actually, but yeah, right now with the break-in, what I did to motivate myself is wasn't really motivation. It was circumstantial for me. It was a case of saying, look, we've got to get on. It heightened for me the importance of security for my family and things like that. And really what I did was say, like, what do I need to do now to get on with things? Plus I've been on holiday, so I had loads and loads of picking up slack to do anyway. One little tip here is make sure you're busy. Make sure, not busy for business sake, but have stuff you need to do. And, you know, you'll distract yourself from emotion and the need to get motivated because you've got stuff to do, such as delivery for clients. I'm in London the next 2 days after today with some very intense client work. So it's intelligent to just focus on doing that. How I feel and motivation comes later on. I've spoken a lot about this in the past. I think being motivated often means really getting momentum. And rather than getting momentum, rather than feeling a bit down, it's like, yeah, but stuff needs to get done. It's just like if I'm feeling a bit low, I'm a bit tired, I'm not really wanting to do anything, but my children need feeding because it's dinner time, I still would have feed them, and that's just how it needs to work. And I would suggest that kind of approach. Forget motivation, just get on with it, and momentum will get you moving. That's the main thing to do. If you don't get any momentum, it's because you're not taking any action. And if you can't take any action because you don't have motivation to do so, take tiny actions. The most minute steps in the right direction will start building momentum, and you're totally away then. Get off YouTube. Don't sit there watching motivational videos all day long because that's wasting time. Get on with it, doing some stuff. How you feel when it's a business situation should be incidental. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're putting your emotional state and how you feel in front of the needs of the business. And it's no different to saying to myself, I'm not going to change my baby's nappy because I don't feel like it. I'm going to go and motivate myself first, then I'll go and change a nappy. No, it needs doing, so go do it. And if you feel great about it, happy days. If you don't, too bad, go change it because it needs doing. So your business needs supersede those of your motivational or emotional ones. Hope that helps. Let's go on to a couple more questions. Maybe one more to finish up. So I think, Daniel, you've asked, if time permits, what was your thought process when assessing the damage? What are your thoughts on security cameras? Sure, security cameras. I'm going to be getting one of these. I think there's Nest that does it. There's also a Ring that does it as well, where it's a wireless doorbell which has a camera and it beams video to your phone. So there's nothing, they can cut cords and that, and there's no hard drive or anything being recorded. It just sends it straight away to you. So I think I'll get one of those. And I also will probably get security cameras because why not? And the police were like, there's no CCTV around here, so fingerprints, but they're probably yours, aren't they? So there's not much you can do about it. So I think I will do that. My thought process when assessing the damage was, very practical. What can I do to make sure that someone is less likely to get in next time, or at the very least deterred from it? When they come to the house, what can I do to make them think, this person knows a thing or two about security, or, oh, I'm going to probably get caught or in trouble if I do break in here. I won't bother. Ultimately, if someone's desperate to break in, then they will. So you then have to ask yourself things like, so where do I start keeping things? We had a lot of sentimental jewelry in with the everyday bog standard jewelry, and as a result, that was taken. And perhaps we could get a safe and, attach it to the back of a wardrobe, I don't know, or something like that. Have some intelligence about where we keep things. Don't need, just little things. Obviously, your awareness is heightened. This is a bit of a wake-up call, but that's the way I look at it. So hopefully that helps, Daniel. Contingency is a big one. And in terms of my philosophy, it is as simple as get on with what you're doing, but always think to yourself, what happens if this doesn't work out? What have I got in place? Always put the needs of the customer first, because when you're planning contingency, it should be all about thinking, can I deliver a service to them so that they wouldn't notice that something's gone wrong? And if I can, I'm in good shape. But if I'm unable to be that person that can do that, can someone else jump in there and take over? So make sure you've got other people who you trust who are nearby who can do that too. That ultimately, worst case scenario, if stuff goes wrong and you've got no contingency, I doubt there's many situations where you can't contact your your customers and say, hey, sorry, this thing went wrong, and that's that, and you learn from it. But really, I think over planning is dangerous, as with anything. I'll plan this, and if this happens, I'll plan this. You just overdo it a bit. Just think to yourself, have I got a system in place where if something goes wrong, I can then switch over or pivot over to this, and that's really what matters. Thank you, everyone who listened on the podcast. It's so good to be back. I'm really glad I've got my house fairly intact, apart from smashed door and back. And thanks everyone on Facebook. I'll finish up with you guys. Thanks also everyone on Instagram as well. It's so wicked to be back here. Thank you. So many of you jumped in. That really means a lot to me. And I'll end with you. And thank you also over on YouTube as well. An absolute pleasure. And thank you for those of you who are listening on the podcast. Catch you all soon. Take care.